The definition of AAA has become something of an anchor around most video games. There's the hype, the features, like this one, and the anticipation from a specific kind of audience, which is saying something given how mainstream Game Freak's previous ventures have been. Whereas Pokemon has that built-in crowd who will show up no matter what, criticisms and complaint about the previous year notwithstanding, Beast of Reincarnation is a new IP that's trying to compete for your time alongside much larger scale productions. Heck, when it was more extensively showcased for the first time at this year's Xbox Developer Direct, you had Forza Horizon 6 on one side, Fable on the other, and, well, Kiln, which is neither here nor there, or anywhere judging by the player numbers. And yet, within that span of time, a company known for a creature-collecting franchise presented this beautifully desolate, post-apocalyptic world reclaimed by nature in the worst possible way, with combat that echoed Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. By its own admission, various supporting studios offered a lot of help, but while other big-name titles have hogged the limelight, Beast of Reincarnation has steadily built a kind of underdog status for itself, despite slotting into that AAA category. It's giving Claire obscure vibes, where its scale and fidelity won't beat out the likes of Resident Evil Requiem, Pragmata, and so on, but whose sum is more than its supposed budget would imply. As always, it begins with the world, set in the far future of 4096. When you talk about destroyed beauty, Gears of War might come to mind, but that's not quite what's happening in Japan, the main setting. A hazardous blight has spread throughout the world, corrupting animals into seemingly mindless, dangerous creatures when it's not completely overwhelming any given environment. The ruins of humanity have become overgrown, surrendering to what may be nature's vengeance. In a way, it's a different kind of beauty, and ironically, in reverse Princess Mononoke fashion, it's your job to cut it down. More specifically, it's Emma's job. As a purifier, she's one of the few who can venture into the Blight and hunt the Nushi, mutated beasts that lay claim to specific areas. To stop the malfeasance once and for all, supposedly she needs to destroy the Beast of Reincarnation. What really throws a wrinkle into all of this is Koo, a malefact born from the Blight. Rather than attacking Emma, however, he tags along with her, aiding in combat. Their bond is further solidified by the fact that she's somewhat afflicted by the Blight as well. It's likely what helps them venture into areas that other humans can't go, while granting strange powers. All of this comes at a price though, as she's essentially ostracized by the majority of others. Another irony, seeing humanity's prejudice still manifest, even when it's on the brink of annihilation. A classic trope, but one that works especially well here. Then there are the aforementioned golems, the remnants of humanity's past. They stuffed their spirits into these mechanical bodies to survive the Blight, and suffice it to say, that hasn't gone down so well. Perhaps more mindless than those afflicted, they're almost a tragic ode to the folly of humanity, attempting to survive past its years and meddling in things that it doesn't understand. A little nod to a certain Square Enix franchise with replicants and gestalts, perhaps. But that's the best part about these discordant elements. They're seemingly tied to an overarching theme of survival. Even if they lost their way, although there are a few sane enough to talk to you, that was ultimately humanity's goal. In the same vein, the Blight is seemingly aiming to overrun the planet, almost in answer to humanity's decadence. And then there's Emma, who soldiers on with who knows what's seemingly breaking her down in ways that, well, we don't know. For all of the dark themes that Game Freak has tackled in Pokemon, Beast of Reincarnation is a whole different kind of, well, beast. But what really stands out all the more is the combat. Emma is armed with a katana and can slash away at foes. In an ideal world, you could attack relentlessly, but the Blight afflicted and golems are made of sterner stuff, which is where parrying comes in. And in true Sekiro-like fashion, parrying enough attacks reduces an enemy's down gauge and opens them up to an execution. But that's not all you can do, because there is another layer to the action. Koo's Bloom Arts. By parrying and building up fluorescent points, you can unleash these different abilities to turn the tide or create some opportunities. Some of these will exploit an elemental weakness, others can induce stagger on enemies, while still others can group and stun them for Emma to deal damage. You can even launch foes, including massive bear Malefax, into the air, following up with aerial attacks and eventually a mid-air execution. It is this shift between real-time action and slow-mo tactical commands that grants Beast of Reincarnation so much flavor, especially as you unlock more abilities for Koo. Couple that with blade arts that Emma can unlock, from rapid slashes to a giant overhead swing that slams down with authority, and you create some pretty potent combos. Koo can launch a Sakura javelin to deal extensive damage to an enemy from afar, which Emma can then jump onto to follow up with some damage. Interestingly, many impressions have described the game as challenging, with some of the Nushi being relentless in their attacks. Difficulty options will temper things for those who don't want to stress, but it's nice that a robust combat system offers some pushback without going into the Souls-like well of respawning enemies every time you rest at a campsite. And while the jury is still out on exploration, a peek at the recent footage gives us a real Hell Is Us vibe. Granted, they offer an obvious through line to progressing the story, but they also are big enough to offer secrets and alternate routes for players to explore. I doubt there's going to be a situation where the game won't try to guide you, but based on what we've seen thus far, the minimal UI gives way to a mesmerizing atmosphere. You're just as enticed to explore those ruined buildings in the distance as you are that decrepit walker that's been left to rust. The nature of these stages can be deceptive, making you think that Beast of Reincarnation is a 15 to 20 hour adventure. In actuality, director Kota Furushima measures it at about 30 hours and didn't clarify whether that included side content. That there are multiple difficulties, allowing for even greater challenges once you've mastered the basics, well, that also adds to the replay value. As a whole, however, I'm entranced by the game's ambience. This quest at the end of the world, where even success won't necessarily mean everything goes back to normal. The mystery surrounding the titular Beast and Koo, and no, I won't accept that there's no connection between them. The combat bristling with all of its tactical options, bridging the gap between skill-based action and smart ability usage. And above all else, the presentation blows everything that Game Freak has done before out of the water in terms of its art direction and its fidelity. Beast of Reincarnation launches on August 3rd for Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and PC. Maybe it'll get lost in the shuffle of major releases, maybe it'll find an audience beyond action RPG fans. But there's something about it that warrants a deeper dive into its world and what it really means to survive.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Vault, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.